PAC 601. Yeah. Turn it off.
How's everybody doing tonight? Good. I'll try to talk loud so you can hear me. I know it's echoey in here. We always have audio issues in here and whatnot. So, real quick, the Fiber Optic Committee has gotten together tonight to solicit community feedback, and we're going to hope to get any questions that may be involved from the community presented to us, so we have a better understanding of what the community's wants and needs are going forward, and answer any questions that we don't have the answers to. We can surely answer some questions tonight, but the whole point of this session was to take feedback from the community to kind of gauge where we are in the town, pro, against, questions, concerns, and whatnot. So over here is the Fiber Optic Committee. I'll let them start introducing themselves, going down the line.
Hello, my name is Eric Van der Leeden. I am currently the chair of the Hampden Fiber Optic Committee, along with the other members. Thank you for coming tonight. So I'm just going to pass along with the introductions, and we'll come back and we'll go from there.
I'm going to pass on the microphone. I think everybody can hear me enough. My name is Brett Soya. I'm co-chair on the Hampden Fiber Optic Committee, and we're real excited to have you guys here. And even if we don't have, hope whatever questions you do have, maybe you walk out of here with new questions, or maybe you have more answers that you can share with others. There's obviously a lot of people, even if they're not here tonight, there's a lot of people looking for information, trying to figure out where we're going with this. Appreciate it.
Hi, everybody. Joe Saletti. Again, just like these other two gentlemen said, looking forward to hearing whatever questions or maybe comments or concerns that you may have regarding the program. So whatever you have, we look forward to hearing what you have to say. And other than that, that's it.
I'm Scott Thomas. Ditto.
Dave Hayward. John Coster.
All right, so pretty much I'm going to kick it over to the committee, but if anybody has any questions they want to start off with, concerns, we'd love to hear from at this time.
I think I'll open with November of last year, we had a failed vote for specifically establishing a municipal light plan. Most often, excuse me.
We passed a municipal light plan.
For fiber optic, yes.
Oh, okay, excuse me. Yeah, correction. The most often question I see, I think mostly on the forums online, revolves around why. Whether it's establishing a new MLP to provide fiber optic internet or bringing in a private entity. We're currently in discussions. We haven't had any feedback from Spectrum regarding their intention of running fiber optic internet throughout the town. We are in talks with GoNetspeed. That we're still waiting on the culmination of a meeting with them to see what they might be able to offer the town. When we are also looking at Gateway is another internet service provider that is currently servicing Northampton and might be looking, I believe, to service Longmeadow, I believe.
East Longmeadow,
excuse me. At the end of the day, when it comes to private entities, we cannot force their hand, right? We can't tell Spectrum and say, hey, we're ready for fiber, come do it. If they choose not to, it kind of falls to our hands to figure out, okay, what's the next best step forward? A lot of us on the committee are very in favor of establishing town-provided fiber, mostly for the concept that your dollars are going to work for you twice. Almost everyone in the town, almost every resident in the town pays for internet. It's a service that we're going to continue to pay for. Paying for internet provided by the town, now that those funds going into an enterprise account that the town can utilize to address the Allen Street intersection, funding towards the extension of the water district, solving questions for our senior center, which is more of a community center. So a lot of us on this board are very, very, very forward on hoping that we can secure enough interest and enough voters availability to show up and say, hey, we are also keen on creating a more financially secure town while at the same time providing a service that everybody already pays for.
Improved much.
Yes, right now we don't have fiber optic in our town. I don't know, does anybody have any questions regarding the differences between fiber optic versus copper? Well,
Any questions or any input? I mean, you
Yeah.
have
Just
an opinion. Well,
we're not going to demand that you pick up a microphone, we're just going to picksy choosies.
You mentioned that Spectrum has the capabilities of,
Spectrum has not had engaged with,
I
sorry, go
would
ahead.
say that's self-defeating if we allow Spectrum to come in.
I agree.
Further monopolize the situation the way it is now, so, but I wasn't aware that Spectrum did install fiber optics. That's enlightening, so.
By which what I meant to say was that we had been in discussion to identify if that was something that Spectrum was looking at. If they had any intention of creating that capability and bringing that capability to the town.
if I may.
Sure.
I think that only came up after we declared our interest to go into fiber optic. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, you know?
We have that
So
out.
like, yeah, and it's like, yeah, and Christmas is coming someday, you know? I mean,
Right.
Who knows?
And also just to can you hear me? And also just to clarify, there is currently a fiber optic line provided by NBI that goes down. A lot of people, you know, if you're following the Facebook forums or whatnot, it's a little bit, I'm just trying to straighten out some information. So right now, currently, the only fiber optic is an NBI line that goes down Main Street and it feeds the town hall. And I believe that service is correct, Craig, correct me if I'm wrong, it's provided by Whip City currently. That's the only.
The ISP.
The ISP for the only fiber optic that's in town is going to the town hall, possibly like police station. I don't think it might, is that just coax? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Just to piggyback on that, there's a lot of different variables there. The police station has their own dedicated fiber line, which is not public use or municipal use. It's dark fiber for the police station, fire station. What Eric's talking about is the MBI, is the Mass Broadband Institute ran fiber optic to all the communities within the state of Massachusetts, maybe 10 or so years ago. What their thought was if they gave everybody a central hub of fiber, that people will build onto it and extend the fiber optic networks within communities. That was taken advantage of in the hill towns a lot because they didn't have anything other than dial-up internet. So fiber for them was the only way forward, and they took advantage of those lines in the back. We do have the fiber running down Main Street, which does go to the town hall, and the town hall does operate off the fiber optic network. But no other entities in town run off of municipal or private fiber.
True. And also with the Spectrum conversation, a lot of folks, you know, heard the rumor that the town was negotiating with Spectrum currently for services. That's only for cable television. It's not including an internet, so the negotiation that's currently, I think, ongoing from Spectrum, which also I've heard they're not responsive in this conversation, which is why it hasn't come to an agreement. So I believe we even went one step further to try and reach out to their liaison, to try and reach out to say, hey, listen, we would like fiber optic internet in Hampden. Is there any interest? And it's been radio silence. So we are pursuing other options to try and bring a higher speed technology into town.
Yeah.
Eric, I would just wondered if everybody knows that if the fiber optic is installed in town, you're not obligated to take it. So it's an opt-in, not an opt-out. So it'll be, if it's installed, if and when it's installed, you can opt to buy in for $85 a month. That gives you high-speed internet. And when we say high-speed.
$85.
What's that?
$85.
The projection is
You know,
$85.
in that range. I mean, you know, times change. If it's gonna be 3 to 5 years, who knows what's gonna happen to the dollar and all that stuff. But it'll, in relation to the economy today, it'll stay at $85. That's our intention. But the thing is that this high-speed, when we say high-speed internet, this is true high-speed internet. What you have now, when you have internet, is you can download at 100, what is it, 100?
It depends on your provider. Even Spectrum does.
You know, if you buy the high end, it's 100 megabytes.
It's a gig.
100,
Yeah.
you get a gig speed.
They say-
That's downloading. But to upload, which is if you work from home or if you want to send big files, the most you can get is 10 megabytes, right? Yeah, this fellow works for Wally Computer, so he's our computer go-to guy here, so.
Yeah,
So
and
I just
even,
wanted to let you know that this is designed to meet your needs for now and the future, and for those people who more and more work from home and need to send files to their bosses and, you know, do things, so, you know, that's one of the.
correct, yes. Yeah, because right now, so basically, everybody on the committee unanimously agrees that right now with coaxial, with the, you know, your standard cable, you get spectrum, that the speeds that you're currently getting, even if you pay them a gigabyte service, you're not truly getting a gigabyte service with coaxial cable. It's just not possible based on the amount of users. I guess if you're the only one in the town, and you're the only provider, you know, going straight to a hub, maybe, but that's not the case. When you have hundreds and hundreds of neighbors, if you ever run a speed test at your house, you'll see that speeds are going all over the place, and the upload speeds are not there. So our effort is that, you know, we're kind of getting to the point where coaxial is kind of turning into the DSL and not quite the dial-up. We're not quite there yet, but we want to look forward to the next step. And right now, a lot of people don't realize that fiber optic internet, there's been a lot of, you know, folks saying, you know, fiber optic internet, you know, we're going to replace that technology in a couple of years. Right now, a lot of people don't know this, and some people, this will blow their minds, that we don't know the capacity of fiber optic internet currently right now on this planet. They're the endpoints that we have, the computers that are the most advanced computers that we have in the world. We cannot put enough speed in to bog down fiber optic internet right now. The technology is not available. So the thought that this is going to be obsolete in 3, 5, 10 years is, I don't. Please feel free, and I'm sure you don't want to hear me talk all night, but please feel free.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I know nothing about technology at all.
Okay?
At all.
Yes.
At all is the other word. Can you tell me in simple English why we're doing this? What I picked up so far is it will give higher speed, it will allow people to work out of their homes, and with more efficiency, okay? It might be a source of revenue for the town. Are there other reasons that we're doing this? Or maybe people are dissatisfied with the services that they're getting now, or are there?
Go for it.
It's just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the
Yes.
reasons we're doing this, and why would we consider?
Well,
I could answer some of those
I
questions.
thought if they're happy with the services you have now, you can stay with it. The spectrum will still be an option. So you can stay with the service you have. Do not, it's an opt-in, not an opt-out. So you choose to go with the high-speed internet. If you don't, mazel tov.
But I really, what you're gonna say is what I really want to hear, because, so that when you're discussing it with somebody, you can say, these are the reasons why this is being proposed.
I have a laundry list of reasons, Mary Ellen, and I'd love to answer that question, because I think this is the topic that gets missed a lot. So there's a lot of key reasons why we want to do this. One is you want a competitive service to what we already have in Spectrum. A lot of people are dissatisfied with their current service provider for whatever reason that may be. Price, speed, reliability, you know, no internet in the middle of the night. You know, I lost internet for 3 hours a couple days ago because there was a shortage. So one is we want a reliable service, competitive service. Two is we want speeds for the future. A lot of people in town work from home, myself, my wife included. When we both get on the internet and try to do certain things, we get throttled pretty bad. And she works with large data assets. Like a lot of people, you can't transfer that data back and forth between here and your employer in a timely fashion to complete data transfers. So by going fiber optic, you're opening the opportunity for increased speeds, both uploads and downloads, max speeds. A third option is going to be, you mentioned, a revenue stream for the town. You know, like you do in the stock market, sometimes you like to hold things for a long time until the revenues are there. With this service here, you're generating a revenue for the long term. We're being creative in the long-term approach to revenues for the town. where your money into the service comes right back in, it provides and feeds the service and feeds the town, rather than going out to some other corporate entity that may use it for their vacation home somewhere. You know, if you're paying into the service, you're paying into the community, and we're trying to keep everything localized here. You know, the MLP, the municipal light plant, would be in charge of the operations, you know, setting the rates. When the loans are paid off, the option could be to lower the rates for the residents. It'd be all open to town meeting vote of where they wanted to go with those revenues and proceeds from the fiber optic network. But it's a creative way of trying to generate revenue. You know, we only have so many land, so many businesses, and we don't want to raise taxes too much. So if we get people on board in that aspect, I think it could be a very big benefit to the town.
And what is the initial indemnities? I mean, in order to do this, you have to put up, you know.
So back in October,
$2.
back in October, the cost to completely build out the town was roughly $8.5 million, of which that bond wouldn't be paid off until the system was completely installed in town. The goal was to get a 50% take rate. So 50% of the customers in town out of 1995 serviceable households in town, if we could get half of those to join the municipal fiber, the system would be in the black, you know, generating revenue.
The first year?
If we could get that high of a take rate, yeah.
And have we done an analysis of the populace to see, some of the readings that I was doing, which half of what I lose, said the fiber optics was almost becoming a thing of yesterday. And that they are 25% of the potential people have been hit. I'm not even saying this right, I know.
Yeah.
And
So
it's going to stop. They're putting a halt on it for the immediate future. That's what
I think that may be a misnomer. There's a lot of businesses that may put that out there because they want to get your business. You know, T-Mobile, Starlink, they want you to think that wireless is the way of the future. But if you look into a lot of the wireless technologies, there's a lot of radio interference, a lot of RFI, a lot of health benefits that go along with having a wireless system like that. So, and it's not been fully tested. I mean, if you even look at the FAA, they were questioning having 5G in the area of airports and stuff like that. So, and Eric touched on it earlier, the limits of fiber optic have not been met. The strands itself, the fiber optic strands, it's endless. We don't know the limits because we haven't been able to get there. The only thing that's on the ends is, you know, a computer system, and those, you know, every 3 to 5 years we upgrade with technology and the times anyway. So it would just be an evolution process.
The current end of fiber is being run at 100 gig.
Yeah.
Right.
So a lot of government entities, a lot of towns now are starting to install 10 gig fiber. What's next? 20 gig, 100 gig, as he's mentioned, you know, it's endless, you know, the possibilities of the speeds that you can get from these cables.
Correct.
So.
I'm sorry.
We still use spectrum from the television and all that?
Yes, the town is actually going to be up for contract with Spectrum for providing TV service this year.
You do TV through the internet, through your fiber optic.
So if this is allowed in town, then we get rid of spectrum and just get TV and internet through.
And voice, and telephone.
Yes, Spectrum would still be in town for as long as they choose to be. So we're not removing that option, but you and any other individual could absolutely choose, say, I'm done with Spectrum, I just want to pay the town for my internet.
And then you could go to a streaming service of your choice. I mean, you could do, you know, your locals, your antenna TV, you could do 40, 22, 57, you could still get those with a TV antenna. Or you could just buy, say, like an Apple TV or a Roku stick, and then you could stream. Myself, I use Fubo TV, and they have better programming, better pricing, and they have movies there, which you can't always get, and whatnot.
The other question I have is, I've been told to come here if I my dog, so that's why, yes.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, tell your daughter we said thank you.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But all the news, all the literature that we had beginning was that Northampton and Worcester only lost $8 million and all that.
Right.
How do we know that that's not gonna happen here?
I can't speak specifically to who lost money where. I hope,
Yeah, I mean, they put it in the paper, it was, forget Northampton, Russell, or something.
right.
There was 2 towns listed in there, and just real quick, that was propaganda. One of the towns they listed sold their network to one of these providers. They started to build it out, and then said, hey, we're just gonna end up selling it, and they got out of it without losing money, I believe. They were one of the very first towns to try to do municipal fiber before anybody had even made a pathway or, roadmap for it, so.
But as I told you, when I saw that, and friends of mine saw that, they said, why are you gonna take a chance?
Sure.
That's 4 times our budget.
Right. I mean, they did a really good job at, putting questions and doubts, and we didn't do a good enough job getting the answers out there. Yeah.
And just to piggyback to your point, sir, is when you were talking about, what we're gonna use for TV versus internet, the big cable providers, their Spectrums, your Xfinities, their next level of, their next, is getting rid of cable boxes and streaming exclusively off of their internet. So they're moving towards that model now. So we're setting ourselves up essentially to be in that spot already. I can say that my parents are in their mid-70s, my mother-in-law mid-70s, not very technologically advanced, but she's doing great with it. And just a kind of one step further, it's a little getting ahead of ourselves, but if we do end up getting this and it is voted, whatever entity we choose, they are going to offer in-home training to anybody that subscribes. So if you want to cut the cord and you don't know how, they will provide that information and service on site, no matter which company we go with. So that's also a benefit to, if that makes you a little apprehensive and say, well, I still like my cable TV and my boxes and whatnot, I don't want to cut the cord. These folks will help you do that. So that's also what we're looking, that's kind of the way things are going. And I know a lot of us on the committee have already kind of cut the cord, so we're familiar, but obviously I get that, not everybody is comfortable with that process. Another thing I will mention and point out is a lot of people will bring up, what about like T-Mobile home internet? What about, Starlink? What about this? What about that? So those are private entities. So you could certainly sign up for those today if you wanted to. But I will say that I think it was yesterday or today, I was looking at Spectrum as an anti-propaganda ad against T-Mobile internet. I don't know if anybody's seen that, but now they're going after T-Mobile and the Starlinks to try and say, hey, their speeds aren't the greatest of what they are. And that's, we can sit here and say that as well. And that's the reason why we don't go with Starlink, and they're not there yet. And if you think about the vast size of space and satellites and how many millions and millions of dollars it takes to launch a satellite, we are going to be several decades before we have a continuous global or even rural market where they're going to cover our area to be able to get that kind of coverage. That's just, I think, another point I wanted to make as far as those big services. So, any other questions?
What I told Fred was, in 1979, when we got cable, it was $2.50. And I just paid the bill yesterday, it's $252.
There you go. Right.
It's
And
about the same, you just moved the decimal.
about the same. And for now, and if we come on around roughly the $85 mark, if this is passed and we move forward, the good news is that the bandwidth that this service will provide, it's gonna last my lifetime and everybody in this room's lifetime. It really is. I mean, cable TV has been great for many generations and many decades, but if you really think about how long coaxial has been in your homes, it's 30+ years. And, a lot of people don't want to move away from that, but this is kind of the next progression of technology. Yes, wireless is a big thing, but as far as getting the stability, any IT or any person will tell you that the fastest, most reliable connection is a hardwired connection. Obviously, there's no, Armageddon hits and the telephone poles and everything goes down. That's a whole other story, but you'd still be in that same situation with any other type of internet. So, but please, any other questions? Ma'am?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. Both my husband and I are retired, and we're always looking to see how we improve the value of our house, our property. And somebody said here that fiber optic is something of the past or something. I know it's not, for 2 reasons. One, the value of the house, of the property is 4.9% higher if you have fiber optic in that town. I'm looking it up here. And 2, Craig, you said something about people work out of the house. A lot of people use the fiber optic. David and I, my husband and I, noticed that there's a lot of young families moving into town, and we have to think about the future and how much it would be attractive for houses with fiber optic if we have that in the town. That's something that we have to think forward, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point. So actually, even on the date of the vote, the night of the vote, last November, there was a nurse practitioner who came in still in her scrubs in the back with her work-provided, Bay State-provided laptop, filling in patient charts. And she was there, and we were having a conversation. She was talking about, yeah, I would love to be able to switch to be work from home and be at home with my 2 kids, but I don't have the upload speed to be able to support that.
Exactly, that's what we have to do.
Right. Yeah, not only securing information access, internet access for our town right now, but securing information access that will be reliable, cost-effective for our residents for the next 10 years, the next 20 years. Internet to the schools that my son will be going to. Yeah, that's a big priority for us.
When we're gonna downsize, we wanna sell the house, imagine our value will be a lot.
Absolutely. I will say that for the 2 priorities that are listed for our 1 and 2 as the committee, as we go forward looking through other options, whether it's who's going to be providing the back end support for the MLP if a vote for the MLP comes again. 1 is cost, trying to make sure that the cost is effective for our residents, and convenience, meaning whatever support anybody needs in their home to achieve whatever combination of things that they want, whether it's if they want TV, if they want a phone line, if they want these services, those services, that is a priority for us, making sure that the switch is as seamless and as easy as possible for everybody. If it's too cumbersome, that doesn't work for me, I don't think it would work for anybody. I want this, in this day and age, it's not that difficult when you have, especially having someone who's coming in that is trained and extremely well-versed in every aspect of where, how you can get what services, and making sure that they assist everybody to be able to switch those things so that you can, come home, get it done, and you have your 45-minute install with the person if you have some other stuff that you want to get connected, and be out of your hair, and then you're good to go, working, not going to lose your internet 4 hours later and have to call somebody and have to wait 2 days for a service call. So just want everybody to understand that cost and convenience are the 2 things that are forefront in our mind when we're going through, looking to see who's going to be a provider.
Yes, and one more point to stem onto that is the fact also, all the folks that we are engaging in, we are just in the discovery phases. We're just, just exploring who's out there and who's willing to come in and to address the town of Hampden, is that everybody we spoke to so far, that granted, $85 is I'm not gonna sit here and say that's the hard number. That's our goal. That's what we had in mind for the last, it's a realistic projection. That being said, the equipment and hardware, I think except for phone, is included. So your wireless router, your fiber link into your home, that is provided by any one of these providers, and is included in that money. So a lot of people have Spectrum, and you have to rent your cable boxes. You've got to rent your modem. You've got to rent your router every month. This is gone. Any one we're looking at, that's a mandatory, non-negotiable. That's got to be included in the monthly fee. So just more information.
I would say that's municipal fiber. If we went the municipal fiber route,
yes.
the companies that would come in. If there's a private company coming in, we have no control of what they charge.
Correct.
Rates like that, kind of like Spectrum. So.
Correct. Sorry, thank you.
And the benefit that he mentioned with the wireless router is that you would get internet, but you would also get wireless in your house.
Correct. Ma'am, did you have a question? I'm sorry.
I do. Similar to the last research that was done, voted on, is there an opportunity to scale down if the uptake in town increases?
So like, say if we hit like 100% of the town, something outrageous, we'll say 100% of the town says, yep, we're in on fiber.
Because I think in the last round, there was an opportunity if the rate exceeded, and I forget what it is, but Craig probably knows.
Right.
It started going.
So under the construct of a municipal light plant, the residents gain the power of being able to request votes or to push things to vote. It will be operated by committee representative of the selectmen, and because of that, yeah, anything that would say they want to lower the price, increase the price, change how something's being delivered, all of that would be something that could be voted on by a resident. Obviously, something that you're never going to get from Spectrum. Spectrum's never going to come and say, hey, guys, we really want to say a vote and see if you want to lower your bill. You know, it's not really going to happen.
So just to piggyback on your question there about cost. So these costs were all calculated last October at, you know, what it was at that point, and, you know, the estimate was a $8.5 million build out. And at a 50% take rate, that was at $85 a month. If, you know, you went up, say we got a 70% take rate, it goes down to $68 a month. And this is just for the term of the bond until that's paid off. There are other negotiating factors, like if we had gotten approval, we would have been able to then negotiate with the ISP, and at that time we were looking with Whip City Fiber. They were charging roughly $23 to $26 a month service fees to us first, which includes our ISP charge, the customer service fee. If we had gotten town approval to move forward, we obviously would have negotiated with them for a lower rate with them. So worst case scenario is what we are proposing, but giving us the opportunity to negotiate for lower pricing from them as an ISP. So there could have been some other variables and cost savings along the way.
And just to stem on that a little bit, is that that's kind of music to my ears, to be honest with you, is when you say something like that, is that if we genuinely had the customer base that Spectrum had, the money that would go back into the town, this would never have, I mean, this is all obviously theoretical, but if we had 100% take rate with all the Spectrum subscribers, our rates would be, we would really have to redo the numbers, but they would be much lower, and the revenue that would go back to the town would be great. It would be a huge asset, and that's, I think, the point that we'd like to drive home is that we would own it. There's no monopoly here. There's no, you know, there's no underlying agenda. You know, we just want what's best for the residents, as cost savings as possible, and also reliable, fast internet to each home in Hampden. We want to offer that. And that's really what we're charged with doing. That's a part of our committee. That's what we're trying to do. But if we genuinely had a huge take rate, our rates could be down much lower, and we would have a lot of revenue for the town, which would be great because we really don't have a lot of businesses in town.
And just one other thing to add on to that. When we were looking back in October, you know, I did some calculations of households in town, because I heard a lot of questions say, well, not everybody has internet in town. But according to the census, 94.7% of the town has internet, broadband internet, and there's only 5.3% that have no broadband. So you're looking at a pretty high number of residents that actually
already pay for service.
Right.
I think there's an education factor that might have been missing.
Yes.
Because if you ask my parents, when I try to explain to them streaming, getting rid of cable, I'm not there yet, even though I've shown it to them at my house.
Yeah.
So,
And
No worries.
And that's kind of what we're doing. We kind of went back to the drawing board. You know, we realized there's a lot of education missing, a lot of information missing. So holding these sessions, getting people interested, taking things we may have missed, and getting more info for those questions.
understand what they have and what it translates to.
Yes,
right.
Absolutely.
Simple language, simple.
Yeah.
Ma'am.
No technical level, just simple for older folks, us,
Correct.
our age.
Yes, ma'am.
I came in a little bit late, so you may have already answered this question.
Yeah, no worries.
You mentioned the 85, give or take.
Yeah.
Generates revenue for the town.
Yes, ma'am.
To what does that revenue get designated?
Correct.
Where would those funds go to, you're asking?
Yes.
Where would that extra dough go?
So there would be it would be up in the air at that time, you know, to decide if we wanted to have that money go back into the general stabilization account at the end of the fiscal year, or if we wanted to create, you know, an enterprise account underneath the MLP, so the money comes back into that account for any, you know, unforeseen expenses, you know, storms that may bring down a line that need to be repaired. You know, those are the things that we approve or vote for at town meeting. You know, at the end of the year, we say, okay, we have this much money left over, you know, in the general fund. Do we want to apply more of it to the tax rate? Do we want to put more of it here for this project? So, you know, that would be up to the town vote, you know, where the money went, you know, whether that was, again, in the enterprise fund for the MLP itself, or if that revenue just goes back into, you know, the general fund at the end of the year.
This is just for internet.
Correct, just internet only. And television would be a streaming service that you would get in addition, so
So I have to go shopping around for, I'm probably one of the few people in town that still has a landline.
right, well, and that's great, I know a lot of people with landlines still.
I've had for 50 years, so.
So you could continue to use Spectrum as a streaming service. You could go with one of the other number of streaming services, YouTube TV, Fubo TV, Netflix. There's a whole slew of them. You know, I had a whole list over there of different private entities that provide different types of programming. You know, it just depends on what your needs are. If you're just looking for local stations, you could just get a regular antenna, you know, and get, you know, the digital transmission right from the channel 40 or channel 22 for news or whatnot, so. That would be part of the committee's goal, is to make sure everybody is understanding and gets that help that they need to get there. And whatever ISP we go through, you know, the ones we've talked to, the two private firms, you know, there's Whipsy Fiber we've been talked with, and then the other one was, what was it? Shell in South Hadley is another company that provides internet services. Both of them have great customer service and, you know, in-home setup and stuff like that.
And both offer also,
By the way,
both
we still have a
offer,
landline.
both offer an in-home landline solution. So if you want to keep your number from like if you're, you know, married to having a home phone, they will port your number and they provide a service. I believe that's extra. I don't have the details on that right now about how much that would cost, but it was not a huge number compared to what like Spectrum offers.
Unfortunately, keep your landline or copper line.
Or you, yeah, and it also enables you to keep your landline, copper line. I know the South Hadley Electric Light, which they call Shelled, they offer a kind of like a copper emulator, so it's almost, you have like a Verizon landline in your home. So if you have the Lifeline or you have an alarm system that goes back to a monitoring service, you can maintain that. So all these companies we're also looking at the needs of every resident, young, old, and everywhere in between. We're really trying to do a good job with all of our discovery and really tailor this to every home.
So basically, you won't be losing any of your existing, you can have a landline, you can have television local, you can have movies, you can have all of that, all totally on fiber optic if you choose to. Or you can mix and match with Spectrum. You can get TV with Spectrum, you can get internet with fiber optic. It's all available on fiber optic.
When did we re-up with Spectrum?
Excuse me?
When did we re-up with Spectrum?
She missed that part.
Right now, we're actually on a 90-day extension with Spectrum for television services. They've not really reached out to us at all as a town to extend our contract. And we've had to go through our lawyer to initiate an extension and try to renegotiate another contract with them. But nobody else is looking to come into Hampden if that's the route we want to go.
Sorry, I'll take you a second, sir. So you had a question earlier? Sorry to
You
point.
want to fiber optics to the router, right? About from the router to the TV, you do fiber optics back to on your customer.
So what would happen, sir, is they would bring fiber optic into your home, and from there they would provide a wireless router. And then you have like to Craig's point, you have like a Roku or a Fire Stick or something that you plug into your TV with an HDMI compatible device, they make adapters if you don't, and then you would stream wirelessly from that device. Sir, did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Sir?
I'm just curious, you're negotiating with Spectrum, what is it you're negotiating exactly?
I think right now it's asking if they want to keep providing us TV.
Right, so every community has a contract with a cable TV provider. And in order to maintain just the legalities through the state of Massachusetts, we have to renegotiate every 10 years for exclusive service. You know, you've seen some towns switch from Spectrum to Verizon or to whatever else there's out there now, but in doing so, they would have to sell all their assets to this other company to come in and take over, so.
And just to clarify, that is just TV.
That's just
nothing
TV,
to do with
nothing to do
internet.
with internet.
Yeah.
So,
Do we have to pay Spectrum? The town pays Spectrum for the contract?
No,
I love this question.
It's not, because I was thinking if everybody joined into this, and we have a contract with Spectrum for 4 years, and we owe them any money, if we
no, it just gives them the right to operate in the town of Hampden.
Okay.
And again, it's just for television, not for internet. So say if everybody jumped ship from Spectrum and came over to a municipal or a private, broadband service, one, they're probably going to lower their rate substantially to try to compete. Or two, they're just going to say, all right, well, we're just not going to maintain that infrastructure anymore.
From my experiences, it wouldn't surprise me, they'd probably raise the rates.
Take that.
Say, hey, we lost 100 people, and now everybody's got to divvy up the price.
My wife and I's life mission to get rid of Spectrum.
You're in the right room, sir. So, ma'am?
If we own and are responsible to operate the system,
Yeah.
will that not be another department?
Yes.
And make our town government grow?
Yes,
And turn into negotiating for salaries and the whole 9 yards?
Correct.
And is that
It's more of an
a
evolution.
big undertaking?
I'll let you speak to that one.
Department or another fire
Right.
department?
Not necessarily. So there's two aspects of it. The town would own the infrastructure, but the ISP, whatever company we chose to go with, would maintain and do all the repairs and all the customer
Servicing.
building.
Yeah.
So that's part of what the fee is. It's $23 a month of the customer's bill goes towards that.
Yeah.
In that aspect, the MLP, which we voted on the 2 succession meetings, the municipal light plant, would be the one, the oversight, kind of like this, the fiber optic committee. It would just be another board, another committee that would have the oversight of maintaining, make sure the rates are good, the service is good, the quality is good, and that the vendor is providing the service that they're guaranteed to provide.
And they be a committee unto themselves and then you become under the selectmen?
Under the selectmen.
Well,
The
technically, the selectmen right now are the MLP.
Yeah.
So we have the oversight of the MLP. If this takes off and we now have a fiber optic entity in town, I would envision that the MLP would be an independent board, kind of like Conservation Commission or Historical or any one of those other boards, say Parks and Rec. They would have the oversight and authority, and then the ultimate oversight is the selectmen.
Okay, and just a suggestion for future meetings.
Yes.
Instead of using letters, could you just say what the thing is?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
It could be MLB,
Okay.
SFPUR.
So the MLP is the municipal light plant, and if you remember, 3 years ago, we went through 2 town meetings to approve the town to operate an MLP, a municipal light plant, which has nothing to do with lighting or plants or anything like that, but it's a Massachusetts requirement that you have this designation to be able to operate fiber optic.
Absolutely.
You have to go to your state legislatures for that one.
Yeah. Sir.
You mentioned, you mentioned 50% buy-in is the line. Is there a percentage of buy-in that you need before you start the build? And do you have to sign up for this when you,
No, so to my knowledge, what would happen is we would go to a town meeting. Right now, preliminarily, we're looking at the spring meeting of 25, to try and bring this try and have enough information that we've done our due diligence to bring this to a town vote next spring. That's our goal. And basically, if we do indeed, vote for it, I'm sorry, you had a better point than I did. Go ahead. I'm sorry, he had a.
I was going to say is that,
Sorry, go ahead.
to answer your question, there is not a minimum that we have that's required to move forward with the process. Right now, we are discussing a opt-in survey to get a more accurate definition of what % of the town is ready and willing to make the switch. In that scenario, the opt-in survey is only a survey. There would be no commitment whatsoever, only as a survey to gauge, excuse me, the percentage of the town that is willing to join. If that answers your question.
Right, so essentially what would happen is we would approve the project in a town meeting, if it were to be approved, and then we would start the bonding process. Essentially, we would get our quotes and we'd get a bonding process, and then basically we'd start the construction phase. And this is all to be determined kind of situation. At least I can speak a little bit to the Whip City. Theoretically, if we were to stay with Whip City, I think they had 8 or 9 zones they had to build out, and then each zone would go on a priority basis. Basically, if there's 500 residents in this zone, and 200 residents wanted to take on this, and in another zone with 100 residents and one person wanted it, they would start on the other zone first, and so on and so forth, and then build it out kind of in zones based on, I think, take rates essentially at that point.
So to answer briefly, the answer is no. You don't have to initially sign up.
Yeah, there's no initial payment that we
Yeah.
get until the project is completed.
Installation fees or incentives for signing on prior to build, is there?
The installation fees, or there's no installation fees, it's all part of the service, it's just,
Under an MLP, only, only under an LLP.
We're speaking to just MLP because that's what the research we've done, and private entities will always be different.
Right.
Under the MLP, the cost for installation is factored into the total cost of the project.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the only exception is if you have like 2,000 foot driveway, which I think that's a whole nother discussion because
And a
fiber
very
optic is
small amount of
expensive.
people.
So, but that's a,
Very small fraction of the town.
yes.
And again, we keep talking about what was presented before, and this could change, with direction of residents' input and questions and needs,
Absolutely.
Everything we had looked at before is just kind of, okay, it's on the table as information. But, anything going forward now is, we're trying to gain new information and see if there's any other alternatives, better deals, and, how can we make this, the best fit for the town,
Yes.
the wants and needs.
Yes, and there's been a lot of great questions. Generally, I appreciate the attendance, really, I do. And just to stem while we're all thinking, at the bottom of the sheet that we provided, there is an email address and also a Facebook page. If you have any other questions, if you walk out of here in 5 minutes after the meeting's over and you say, hey, listen, I totally forgot to ask this, send out an email, monitoring our emails constantly. We're constantly looking for feedback, so whatever questions that you may have after, please feel free to forward those along. I'm not ending the meeting by any means, I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah.
I'd like to point out too, the federal and state government have been very active in supporting the expansion of fiber optic internet. There's money that's surfacing as time goes on to help offset the cost. And we're hoping that this happens. I mean, the federal government's really pushing it and talking like billions of dollars. So hopefully some of that filters down and reduces the overall cost.
So is that a grant?
It would be a grant, of course.
Yeah, the only reason why we're not speaking specifically to those because until we move forward, we can't apply for those until we have the direction of saying to go to the state or a federal entity saying, yep, we're on board, we've got the town on board, we're ready to go.
Right.
Until we get to that point, we can't even really interact with the grants at that point.
And also, and I'm sorry to cut you off, and also to speaking to grants, typically with grants, there's not as of right now, the last research I've done in the last couple of years, there is no grant that's gonna come in and say, hey, we're gonna give you $8.5 million to put the internet in. It's gonna be, it's gonna be a couple $100,000, somewhere in, please don't quote me, but it's not gonna be a bailout of the whole project, but it will be helped, and if ever we can, we will pursue, that's for sure.
On that note of grants, we did apply for a digital equity grant, which we were approved for from the state. And we're working with I think it's Pioneer Valley Planning Commission right now, to write us a digital equity plan. And in doing so, having that plan shows the state our commitment to bringing in, high-speed internet to all residents. And hopefully, there's going to be more funding coming from down the road. Having that equity plan in will allow us to be able to petition
Be eligible,
for more
yeah.
funding. But again, we can't apply for that until we have a roadmap and a town approval.
Right.
The first thing is the education, everything that we missed points on, we're trying to get that information now, get that out to the public. And then, town vote, like they said, next spring. And then at that point, if it passes, then we allow the selectmen to negotiate into contracts with, entities to start building out. And at that point, we were hoping to, work in lower costs for different things here and there. But again, it's all in succession.
Are you gonna have more of these meetings like you're doing tonight before that?
Yes, absolutely. That's the goal. Yeah, we'll take what we have here, get more information, do some more research with companies, see what providers are out there that are willing to compete. We know 2 now that are willing to compete. Is there a private entity out there that could come in?
So far, no.
Well,
So far, no.
there's another one that just came.
But we're working on it.
Gateway, they'd come in, they would own the infrastructure, they would own everything. It wouldn't be a municipal light plant, But, they would just be another competitor and offering another service to residents. So that could be a possibility, if it's feasible for our companies who want to invest into a small town like ours.
Right.
And we are pursuing every avenue like that. So that's our goal, and full transparency with the town. We don't want any, and that's why any questions, whatever we know, you will know. I can promise you that. Ma'am, I'm sorry.
I just had a question about, you said you did a survey to see what interest there is, or?
We're saying that we will, that
Do you know the interest, how many people?
only anecdotally, only, as a general percentage, I don't have that information firsthand.
We had a town meeting where close to 50% of the people at the
Yeah.
meeting agreed, and the people at home were upset because they couldn't vote for it.
It was more than 50%. It was, we needed a 2/3 vote to pass at the town meeting, and it failed by 3 votes. And then talking to people afterwards, there was a lot of people that didn't make the town meeting. It's very tough. It's tough to do an indicator at a town meeting, but if you want to use that as an indicator, you can say that it was, well above 50%.
So you said there's like 94% of us all have internet in town?
Correct. 94.7.
Okay, and then like, you think like 50% are interested?
Right, so there's 1,995 serviceable homes in town. So if we could get half of those, I think it was like 880 something or whatever,
Yeah.
As I told you before, Craig, I didn't come because I wasn't informed that $8 million that the town was responsible for did never happen. So I don't want that.
Well, also, Spectrum came out with a pretty good anti-propaganda.
Yeah.
They're knocking on your door, giving you flyers, really trying to scare, essentially, by us doing this and moving forward with an MLP and possibly deprivatizing, fiber optic in town, we're taking revenue out of their pockets. So they put revenue out. Let's go figure they won't put it back into our town, but they will put it out to
keep you as
suspend
their
it, to
customer,
try and put fear into the residents, enough so to where it affected our vote.
They spent millions of dollars on that.
And I said, you shouldn't do this because your town's gonna be responsible. I asked him, do you live in town? He said, no, I'm from New York.
What other interests?
So, and I agree, when you look at the cost that we were proposing at town meeting, it was 8.5 million, that's a lot of money. I mean, we just turned down a senior center for less of that, which could have benefited a lot. But, when you look at the grand scheme of it, you're gonna be offering a service that's gonna be generating revenue, which is gonna go towards that bill without hitting the tax rate.
Yeah.
So that goal of 50% is where we were saying is our black number where we will generate revenue. We didn't even cross the bridge. We'll say, what happens if we get 30% take rate? Well, there's 2 options. One, 30%, so now we have to make up for that 20% to get to, above the black line there. And then, the other option is, well, of that 30%, are they willing to pay a higher rate to get the internet service? So that's a possibility too. But that would all come with surveying and stuff down the road, a lot of variables.
Right. And also, one other point I will drive home, that we do currently have a service like that in town. So if you utilize the transfer station is essentially that same program, just on a smaller scale. So if the transfer station doesn't make any money, it's gonna hit our tax base. A lot of people don't know that, but that is the way it's set up currently. So, but it's self-sustaining, and it's running, and kind of, I'm not using that as a model, but it just pointing it out if you didn't know that already. It's just kind of interesting information to point out. I got 2 questions.
Spring vote a ballot initiative, or is that another town meeting?
It'd be another town meeting.
It'd be a town meeting.
I mean,
Do you have any other communities that have done similar to us, that have made this transition, that we could talk to people in, or do they like it, or did it go smoothly, or problems?
It depends on which ISP we'd be going with. Whip City has about a dozen communities that they service. West Springfield is their newest one that they're working with, and they're building out West Springfield right now. Obviously, Westfield is their community that they came from. There's a lot of hill towns. They're in negotiations with East Long Meadow right now.
It's up and running and had gone through the whole process, and
I think West Springfield is partially running right now.
yeah.
Yes, there's
about a dozen other hill towns that are running.
Beckett, for sure.
Yeah, South Hadley Electrical Light Department, Shelled, is one of the ISPs that I had a discussion with, excuse me. And they,
Provider
they were a provider for, I want to say, 8 or 9 communities from like the Pittsfield area along the Berkshires. So communities that are very similar to ours, rural, hill, a lot of environmental factors, long driveways, tight driveways, woods, forested. And they serve, like I said, I want to say 8 or 9 communities in the Berkshire.
17 communities.
17, excuse me. I was completely wrong. 17 communities.
And part of what we do as a committee, as we're vetting out all of these options, is that we talk to the people and see how the service is. How is it reliable? Is it worth it? Do you like it? We would be doing that.
To answer your question, Shelled, as an ISP that we had discussions with, had a very in-depth tracking customer report survey system. And they had across like a 1 month, a 3 month, and a 6 month survey were at like an A+ average. Yes, in terms of people that were happy with their service, happy with their installation, happy with their communication, happy with the in-home representative, both from the knowledge of the in-home representative as well as how they conducted themselves. So yes, to answer your question, yeah, that is a big factor that we look into when it comes to trying to identify who might be an ISP.
Sir?
Gary Allen, or Craig, have we had special town meetings in October in the past?
We have one every year.
So why did we put this on the agenda for October instead of waiting till May?
I think it's a little premature. I think to get the information out there better to combat a lot of the questions, the answers, and then the uncertainty. I think, you know, a big thing like that in October, even though we tried it in the past, it got a little bit of pushback. But I think having the extra time will definitely be a benefit.
And May is really the annual town meeting, and the October town meeting used to be just to catch up on little business things. And when you put something that's too big there, you don't get the same crowd,
Yeah.
and people think like you're trying to push something over on us.
Right.
I would think.
That's
Right.
That's, yeah.
There's that, you know, special town meetings now have become a little bit more of like you said, cleanup session, but it's sometimes we're seeing a need more for more things in the fall, just because you need to maintain that runningness of your government and not able to fix everything, you know, in May, but to your point, yeah, business meeting.
And to your point, sir, as much as we'd like to do this in the fall, it's just a slow-moving process. And we're really trying to Scott's point, we're really trying to vet everybody and do our due diligence and keep transparency through the whole process, so every resident feels comfortable, we feel comfortable, and we're trying to keep costs down. We're just trying to really think of every aspect to every resident, what can be the positives and negatives for everybody. So we really are trying to take a lot on and analyze every bit of information we have from each possible candidate, and bring that back to the town.
Are there any cons to it? Is there any, I heard the pros, how about cons?
Risk. Because the town is accepting, a grant proposal and we're funding it, there's always going to be risk. I'd love to sit here and tell you that the risk is low, but 94% of the town utilizes internet. And I think more than 50% are, at best, barely content with Spectrum. So it's, as a resident of only like 5 years, it's easy for me to feel that the general position is most people are looking to switch.
Well, if we did a survey, could we do mail surveys to people's houses and have them return so that when you stood up at town meeting and you gave 50% you were no, exactly 52.7%.
Right.
Because we did the survey.
Yeah.
There's a couple ways we can do that. So absolutely, yes, I think a mail-at-home survey is good. We could wrap it in with the annual census that EVA sends out every year, because everybody sends a census back.
Because I think it's telling us to go to your website and stuff like that. Right, I agree. Something like that would be a good idea.
So,
Yeah.
you can do a survey at that time of year with the census could be good, or it could be its own independent thing.
whatever way you think you get the biggest response, so. Right. You can say this is percentage of us on the side.
Right.
Sure.
That's what I'm curious, is how many of us want this, you know?
No, absolutely. It's a good question to
And we
ask.
would love to know as well.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
And I think one of the other points to kind of, we've kind of said it before, but is the higher the take rate, the lower our bill is going to be. And there are also, all of these entities are also, the name is escaping me right now, the Affordable Connectivity Act. So for folks have, financial issues, affordable connectivity with money, every entity that we're negotiating with whoever maybe meet those income requirements would potentially, qualify for that. So these would be qualifying for that as well. And I think to this gentleman's point, saying, 100% take rate, that would just be a win-win. It really would be.
Yeah.
And to the point about getting the word out there, I mean, I think, we have a good amount of people in here tonight that seem to be positive on this. Spreading the word with your neighbors, your family, your relatives, somebody down the street, when you're at the grocery store or whatever, put the feelers out there too and say, hey, next time there's a meeting, come on out.
Absolutely.
Speak to the pros and the cons, for or against. We'd like to hear all sides of it. So it all stems from everybody in the community too.
Absolutely.
Sir.
Sir?
What would be the cost of this now?
The cost as of last year was quoted at 8.5 million for Whip City.
And now?
We can't get a number on that
Yeah.
now because things have changed since October. So
Right.
in October, it was 8 point.
So probably in excess of $8.5 million.
Yes.
Most likely with
Yes,
inflation.
no, I
you never
mean,
know. But
who knows? I mean, the Fed said they're keeping the interest rates stable right now, so
Right.
it's possible that they could be relatively close to what we anticipated then.
Nice thing is that as we are all residents, we're not looking for a figure that is extraordinary either. I would not be comfortable pushing anything that I myself would not be utilizing or be willing to pay for. So we're keeping an eye and making sure that we don't fall into a pitfall of scope creep of suddenly this becomes a pet project where someone else is going to be benefiting and getting their back pocket out of this.
I remember going to this meeting back in October. I think that's when it was.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lady here, and she got up and said basically that she didn't think it would be right for the town of Hampden to be sending tax money into this program when not everybody would be.
Utilizing it?
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly. Good word.
Yeah. So
I would be thinking about those lines. Yeah, you say 94% people use it, but we have an older community here.
Right.
So how many of these people would not really
Right.
use it like
Mhm.
other people who are younger, who maybe have a business and maybe can do this and that and everything else.
Right.
sure.
And it creates a older, younger.
Right. So
And that seems like it's a.
yeah.
It's a tipping point.
Right.
Look, if you look real quickly, look around the room, and you look at the demographic of our room right now, and, it's mixed. We have a good variety of people in here that, are interested in this. To your point, the demographics in the town, I mean, 0 to 49 is 42% of the town. It's a pretty substantial number. There's 2,013 households in Hampden, and, we had said, 1995 of those have internet access. So the service would be available to everybody, and we would hope that they would want to partake in a community service versus a corporate service. I understand what you're saying, not everybody is going to want to sign on. I get it. Eric pointed out the transfer station earlier. I mean, it's there for everybody to use. not everybody has to go through it. You know, you can have, you know, McNamara or another company come in and take your trash and haul away.
Just for comparison, do you know who do the transfer station versus, just for a little comparison about,
Can you elaborate on your question?
how much of us use the transfer station versus have trash collection?
That maybe is some good data to look into. I don't have those numbers, but, it might be something you could figure out.
It's in the paper last year, it was extraordinarily low.
Yeah.
So to your point, so you could make the same point. I personally will say that I have McNamara. I don't utilize the transfer station, and, it could hit it could hit my tax base too. Unfortunately, that's one of the risks living with the town. There's certain things that I may or may not agree with, but, it kind of makes the world go round, I guess, right? So it makes things diverse. So, but yeah, I mean, anything is going to come with risk. But I think that the end of the day, though, the product that we're going to receive, it's not like we're trying to bring in someone that's, we're trying to bring in another coaxial cable provider that's just, we're bringing in like a true high-speed upload down, and if we do get a 50% take rate, for example, I will share it, I can share my bill. I pay $100 a month for Spectrum for just streaming internet service only, or just for internet, excuse me. And if this was 85, I would automatically be in a savings. So at a 50% take rate, so I would be tickled. Not to mention the fact that I would have true 1 gig up speed and true 1 gig down. The upload speeds are not there with coaxial and Spectrum, what they offer. So we're also getting a robust product. And I think the fact that I'd like to, kind of present is that the more people that sign on, the more money the town generates. And we all know that we're pretty much a residential tax base, based on, our real estate taxes. That's our bread and butter. So this is another way to bring a revenue stream in by the majority of us signing up. I mean, in my eyes, I think it's a win-win. Obviously, not everybody's going to agree with me, but that's just my perspective.
Yes, ma'am.
I think this question goes back to an earlier comment I made on education. I don't think of those 94%, some people would say they are using it.
Right.
And I grew up, so I think we'll need to post some examples for people on like the website and the meetings showing, okay, here's your landline bill, here's your internet bill, here's your cable bill, and here's what it would look like future state. Oh, that's a good idea. Just because I honestly think of those 94%, some of them would honestly say they're not using the internet, and they are.
Right.
And they could be bundled. Like you're saying, to try to save money by bundling. And they do that just to have that service, like some people bundle a phone and not everybody uses it.
Some people in that meeting were upset because they didn't want to lose the bundle.
Right.
And it didn't make sense because they were paying astronomically more bundling than they would if they broke things in one person, someone's there.
And typically, the bundling price is a short-term period, too.
Right.
They bundle for 12 months, and it's that rate, and then it defaults back up.
Right.
And they can raise their rates at any time. And that's where the MLP is nice, is that there will be a board that oversees that, and it's going to do what's the best interest of the town. So, again, we have a high number, it's going to stay low.
It wouldn't go any higher for 10 years.
It wouldn't go any higher for 10, yeah, exactly.
At that point, it'd probably come down.
Exactly.
Which goes back to, you really have to know your audience, and you're all very intelligent, smart, technology people, but you have to know your audience and present it in a way that they can grasp what you're saying. But your point, here's the dollar figure, I know this is bigger, so.
And that's why we're having these sessions now, because we're trying to get that input.
Yeah, you're going to be our coordinator.
I will just state a fact about streaming services. The one nice thing about a streaming service, if you're not familiar, is the fact that you can cancel at pretty much at any time. So, for example, YouTube TV, if you like YouTube TV, you're watching it for a month, you don't like it, you just cancel, right then and there. And you switch over and you try Fubo, try Sling TV, you can try a host of different ones, and there's no contract. It's basically a day by day, essentially. I think you might have to pay for a month, but there's no big long-term contract. So your advantage to be able to switch is right there. So if you're not happy, just move on, go to the next one. There's no negotiating, there's no customer service rep that's gonna try to talk you out of canceling their service for an hour and keep you on the phone. It's not like that. It's all done kind of online.
And by
Which is
streaming service, he's referring to television replacement.
Yes, correct. Thank you, Dave.
For
Scott.
example,
Scott.
television replacement, I primarily watch hockey in the winter, so I like cable TV for hockey. So I use a streaming service to watch that. But then when hockey season's over, I put that subscription on pause until, the next season. So, because I don't watch a ton of TV, cable TV in general, so I'll pause the subscription just to save the money.
And also for those more fortunate, for example, my parents don't live in town. They have 2 homes, and they have YouTube TV, and they were paying for cable in their house down by the beach, and they were paying for cable here. So that was costing hundreds of dollars a month. I talked to them about cutting the cord. Now they do YouTube TV, and they watch YouTube TV at home, and then they go to the beach, and it's the same account.
They can bring it with them.
You can bring it wherever you want. You can bring it on vacation with you, you can watch it anywhere. So that's, anywhere there's Wi-Fi, you can sign into your account and watch. So there's kind of advantages that, I'm not, I'm just saying.
You can watch it on your phone while you're sitting in an auditorium in a meeting or something.
Right. So just the advancement of technology.
Are you gonna come out with an actual number
Yeah.
at some point?
Yes.
And then make it, like, make it like, show the difference?
Yes, absolutely.
So that people can grasp it?
Yes, absolutely.
Because I remember that it was kind of like, well, we don't really know, we're this, we're that, and I think that maybe that kind of defeated the proposal back in October. And I think a lot of people were like, whoa. There's too many unknowns here.
Absolutely. When the committee completes its vetting process and we identify, right now we are waiting to come to a terminating point in negotiations with other private suppliers. Out of respect for the town, we want to make sure that we're exploring every and any possibility or opportunity in terms of bringing fiber optic internet to the town. When the committee finalizes on a decision of who we would select for being the backbone, the ISP of a municipal light plant, that is when we would come forward with like, hey, this is the cost, this is the breakdown, this is what your monthly bill is going to look like, that is the point that so yes, we will. We're just not at that stage today or for the next 30 days. To your previous comment regarding,
Cost breakdown.
regarding, not cost breakdown, your previous comment regarding, what about the, say we said 94% of people in the town utilize internet, but maybe it's closer to only like.
We keep losing internet over here.
I'm excited about the prospect of seeing my money work for me within the town. If it's a utility that I'm already paying for, and the back end bonus is that the town has more revenue to fix problems that I face every day, that's a win-win for me. So my answer as to why someone who maybe even doesn't utilize internet, why they should be interested in voting or this measure would be supporting a more fiscally robust community.
And I think that would be a driving force for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
And I agree with you, that intersection at Allen and Wilbraham.
Absolutely.
Do something there.
Amen.
That's
Amen.
another conversation for another time, but yes.
Yes.
Now, the streaming services that you'll pay for, that you'll have to pay for, is the reception better because of the fiber optic, like on your TV?
Latency, how consistent your signal is will be better. How quickly the service will start could be better. That's all I got.
The glitchy blocks that you sometimes see in digital cable would help that, so you wouldn't buffer as bad. So you're like, like watching a sports game, you watch it, it starts getting pixelated, you know?
Yeah. The biggest improvement you'll see will be when you have multiple users on a single home network. That's where you're gonna see the biggest jump for most people. So your families, multi-home, multi-kid families, that's where you're gonna see the biggest increase in their like daily usage.
And I think the biggest thing we're trying to get across too is the quality of service is gonna be night and day difference from what we're experiencing right now. And with this evolving, you know, world we're in, everything now is becoming more, you know, internet connected, internet based. You know, you have a smart refrigerator now if you have one. You know, your light bulbs are connected to the internet. Everything that you buy now is connected to the internet, whether you think it is or not. You know, Nest doorbells, Ring cameras, you know,
CPAPs, medical devices.
CPAPs, your medicals, you know, your doctors can check into them and stuff like that. So this sets us up for the future of, you know, connectivity and speeds and, you know, data processing with everything going forward in the future, you know.
And we're not the only town pursuing this. You know, it's not like Hampden's a special entity. Ludlow, East Longmeadow, they're all on board, Wilbraham also.
The entire Pioneer Valley from north to south is currently maneuvering, pursuing fiber optic.
And it's, yeah, that's fiber optic, yes, specifically.
I hate to be the only one not doing that.
Well,
Yeah, that's why we're here.
Amen.
I don't like to jump on trends either too, though, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, as anecdotally, I paid $55 for a gigabyte down and up 10 years ago in New Mexico. And Massachusetts is probably one of the most technologically forward states in the country. So that's pretty frustrating to move back and like, man, I'm getting a pretty crappy service for a lot more money.
Okay. I think we're probably going to wrap it up
Yeah.
this evening unless
Anybody has any other, and again, yes, we do have also the Facebook, the Gmail. If you have any questions, if you know anybody who has any questions, feel free to point them our way. Say, find us on Facebook, always on Gmail, and those links are on the bottom of the page.
Thank you, everybody.
guys.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.